Here we're looking at a very important question, and that question is, what is the difference between national and global citizenship? So national on one hand and global on the other. Now, it's important for us to understand that every global citizen is a national citizen. And when I say national citizen, really, I'm not talking about holding a passport of a given country, but really being vested in the ideals of global citizenship. And that's where you really learn responsibility, commitment, and dedication. It's often said that charity begins at home. And the ideals of global citizenship, they have to begin at home. That's where you cultivate them, and that's where you learn them, and that's where you begin to be to demonstrate commitment and responsibility and take those to the global level. Now, let's take a look at the difference, the key differences between the two categories. The national citizenship is reciprocal, right? What does that mean? It means that we expect a return from the government. This relationship is based on mutuality. National citizenship is based on mutuality, suggesting that we do something for the government does something for us. For example, we pay taxes to the government, and the government in turn provides services, right? The government provides services, so taxes here equals to services, many services the government provides. For example, security. They provide education. They provide health. They provide social amenities, social welfare, and the list is long. So this relationship is based on mutuality, and where the government fails to fulfill its responsibilities, it is held accountable by the citizens, usually during elections. And where the citizens fail to meet their responsibilities, they are also held accountable by the government, and usually that accountability comes in the form of a penalty, of a fine, or even restriction of freedom. So it is reciprocal, and there's an expectation that you will do something for the government, and the government will respond in kind. But on the global citizenship side, it is not reciprocal, it is aspirational. Right? Here it means people aspire to become global citizens because, and here is the key point here, because they want to have an impact on their communities. They want to have an impact in the world. They want to make sure that they have a positive footprint. They aspire to do that, and it's not reciprocal in any way. And there is no mutuality here in the sense in which we've just discussed on the national citizenship category. So these are citizens who aspire to build capacity around the world, and they see the world as one humanity. They see the world as one humanity. And they see humanity as a family. That is the perspective. As a family, and they believe that family helps family. That's the only way the world can move forward. And so they want to do their bit to further the cause of humanity, and to ensure that people around the world have the capacity to be self-sufficient. And they're not doing that because they believe they are better than them, but they believe that they have a higher calling, a calling that is bigger than themselves. And so it is aspirational on this level. In this category, it's aspirational, and in this category, it's reciprocal, or it's based on mutuality. Now, the national citizen expects a reward, expects to see a reward, and the reward is physical, it's in kind and material. And the reward comes in the form of roads. They see roads and they say, yes, the government is fulfilling its responsibilities because they pay taxes. The reward comes in the form of infrastructure. This is infrastructure. It comes in the form of programs. It comes in the form of social amenities that they see, education, health, etc. They see a reward. And when they see a reward, they believe that everything is going well. The government is holding up its end of the bargain, and they are holding up the end of the bargain, and they are doing everything expected of them. But on this side, there are no physical rewards, none whatsoever. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody rewards them, they'll reject it, but that's not the motivation. That's not the motivation at all. They are rewarded by inner satisfaction. When they get the inner satisfaction of helping humanity, and we come back to this point of humanity, because that is the focal point. When they get their reward by with the inner satisfaction they get from helping humanity, from making a difference in some corner of the world, making a difference in some corner of the world. That is the inner satisfaction, and that is the reward, excuse me, and this is the motivation for being a global citizen. Global citizens usually don't want any monetary compensation for their efforts because it's voluntary. And that's the next point here. It's voluntary, totally voluntary. And if they are doing it voluntarily, it means that they are dedicated and they are committed to the cause of humanity. And they see the world as a village. And it takes a village. They have the concept of it takes a village to raise a child. That is the idea. That's the concept they have. All right. So on this side, it is an expectation. On the national level, it is an expectation. Citizenship is an expectation. When you're born into a society, after you attain a certain age or you become an adult, the government expects you, or society expects you to be a participant. They expect you to get involved in leadership. They expect you to get involved in government, be a politician, be appointed, be elected. They expect you to become a professional and add your bit to capacity building in your community. They expect you to be a nurse or a construction worker, a medical doctor or a teacher or a pilot, whatever it may be. They expect you to further the ideals of the country in one way or the other. It's an expectation. And in this expectation, there's also expect you to uphold the laws, of the country, to obey environmental laws, and to keep the environment clean, to defend the country if need be, and to represent the country in a very good way as an ambassador of that country. It's an expectation. And so when those expectations are not met, there are usually consequences. There are usually consequences. But on the other side, it's voluntary. It's totally voluntary. There are no expectations. It is voluntary because of, again, the cause for humanity. They believe in humanity. And they believe that humanity comes first and must be given a priority. And that humanity is not necessarily those in their country, but the humanity they see is on the global level. So their efforts are voluntary. And so most of these, or some of the global citizens, engage in global citizenship at great risk, great personal risk, at great personal discomfort and inconvenience. But they see that as their obligation, as their responsibility. And if they're able to help a community, they feel that inner satisfaction. They believe that they've earned that satisfaction, and that is sufficient. And that's the reward they need. Now, on this side is legal obligation. So national citizenship is etched in law, in the Constitution. There's a legal obligation to it, a legal aspect to it, and everybody is expected to meet the expectations in this regard. But on this side is a moral obligation based on their conscience. This is conscience, based on their conscience. And they usually become global citizens because of an experience they've heard, perhaps. An experience they may have traveled somewhere and they've seen the conditions of the people, and they want to improve those conditions. And they seek to improve those conditions because they believe in equality. Global citizens believe in equality, and they believe that all citizens of the world should have access to the good life, to health, to education, to shelter, to food, and what have you. They believe in that, and they believe it's their moral responsibility that they are put here on earth to help others. They're put here on earth to ensure that others have capacity and others are able to move from one level to the other. So it's a moral obligation, and they will not rest until they fulfill that obligation. They will not rest usually until they fulfill that obligation. And finally, national citizenship sees borders. They have defined borders, and usually, and this is a very important point, your responsibilities end at your borders. And once you leave your borders, you don't no longer have those responsibilities. You don't have those responsibilities pertaining to that particular state or to that particular country. So there are defined borders on this level. But on the global level, there are no defined borders because of a global outlook. And the world becomes your border. And the world becomes, as we said earlier, it's a village. The world has become a village. And they see the world as a village, as a family, as humanity. And there are no borders here. And so anyone in the world is to be helped. That needs help is to be helped and taken to the next level. And so we see the key differences between the two categories. One is really each in law, legality, and constitution, based on mutuality and expectations, and is reciprocated in one level or the other, based on consequences, actions and consequences, and the other is based on conscience, moral obligation, ethics, and the belief that humanity is one.